Well, the mics are back on, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. Hello again to our audience. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and we are at the law firm of Tarlow, Hart, and Rodgers, thanks to Mark Furman and his crew over at TBHR. And my co-host is the one, the only, Mark Z. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Jeff. Great to be with you as always.
You too, Mark. Closing in on the end of the year. Lots going on. I was told this may be the best interview in 5 years that we have coming up, the best ever. That means, of course, we're talking to Todd Armstrong, partner, Clark and Elbing, right?
That's correct.
Now, you're into a really interesting area of the law, so why don't you tell us about that? Because I'm also very interested in the mind of the entrepreneur that you deal with, because it is a category.
Yep, absolutely. So our firm focuses on protecting innovations in the life science and biotechnology area, which in the Boston area is a great place to be. The biotech area here is booming. And so a lot of the clients that we work with are startups that have just either licensed some technology from the academic institutions here in the Boston area, or they are entrepreneurs who are serial entrepreneurs. They come back to the marketplace time and time again after taking businesses successfully to market and usually ending in some kind of a liquidity event for them. So we represent clients that span the full range, from independent inventors who have discovered something in their garage to very sophisticated entrepreneurs who have taken a gene therapy technology or a cell cancer therapy to clinical trials and are now looking to partner with a large pharma company.
Now, I would think, and I'm sorry, you already got my brain racking around. I would think that the majority of these people that you work with are all looking for third-party funding.
Absolutely.
But the difference is some have a track record and they're easy to get funding, and some don't have a track record. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I have a young entrepreneur right now. He has some very interesting technology in 3D printing, for instance. And he has a great idea. We filed a patent application to protect that idea, but he has no funding. So for him, the next step is to figure out where that funding is going to come from. So he can reach out to the angel investor community. He can look for other forms of investment opportunity, friends and family, for instance, or he can try to license that technology to a party that might be interested.
Is that one of the services that your firm has in terms of helping connect them with funding?
It can be. It's not something that we specialize in, although in my own practice, I've started to make inroads into getting to know folks in that particular area so that I can make those connections when
Excellent.
they come up. Oftentimes, a lot of our entrepreneurs come in already funded. Either they have a first round of funding or they are in the process of going through a diligence, which we can also help advise them on.
And I would think that unlike a lot of other industries, your clientele are a little less in the startup of friends and family funding.
Typically beyond. Yeah.
Because of the nature of the work. But a lot of these people don't have organizational building experience. How do you address that issue with these? And I would think these are very intellectual. They believe they're going to get where they have to go. How do you sort of get through to these people?
It can be a challenge. Oftentimes they will come thinking that this is just the money's going to flow. They have a great idea and the money's going to come in. And so really starting at fundamentals is important, and explaining to them that having the technology, having the idea may not be the first step. And oftentimes for investment opportunities to arise, they often have to have the patent process completed. And so from our perspective, that's usually step one.
Completed.
So an
or
issue.
Not just filing.
Correct. Usually they want to see a patent issued.
You're tough.
It can be a very tough field. And it's interesting because even with sophisticated entrepreneurs who have lots of experience coming back to the marketplace time and time again, oftentimes the large investment opportunities don't come until after they've made it through a first and second phase, and sometimes the third phase of clinical trials.
If Mark's going to let me sort of jump into that a little bit, a lot of times I work with industries. I'm a management consultant. And the philosophy the last few years when the laws have changed is that once you file the patent, you've put your stake in the ground and you're protected until the patent is proved or unproved. But you're saying for you, in the particular area you work in, the IP area, you like to see a little bit more roadway behind people.
Typically, yeah. And again, it's not necessarily from our perspective, but it's the investment potential.
Right.
And so when we're advising our clients, usually step one is file the patent application.
Of course.
And that's usually enough to at least pique some interest, in particular if they're investors who want to invest in that technology area. But oftentimes they will not go all the way through until they know that there's a secure patent issued. I have a client just like that, in fact. They had filed a patent application almost 5 or 6 years ago. It went nowhere. And so they hired us to finish the process. And a couple of weeks ago, we got the notice of allowance. The patent will issue soon. And now they're going on the road to look for investment.
So you're into an area that really calls also for a high degree of skill in defending a patent. Do you get involved with the litigation as well?
We don't do litigation. That's a little bit more outside of our particular practice area. Mostly it's patent prosecution and opinion work. And so typically, again, the clients come to us with some very challenging factual situations. And often when I'll counsel clients who are just looking for attorneys to hire, I will tell them that what usually wins the day is not the legal argument, it's the scientific argument.
Right.
And so in our particular field, because we are a law firm full of PhD scientists, we can talk the talk, we can make the legal and scientific arguments that are usually necessary to get these cases to issuance.
Go.
No, I was going to say, could you also discuss a lot of your practice is gene therapy, this STEM, which are real state-of-the-arts, and it's very specific today in terms of the right drugs and working with nonprofits and just a lot of the interconnection that you're involved in.
Yeah, this is a great time for individuals to obtain particularized therapies. So personalized medicine is and has been the buzzword for a number of years now. But we now are at the stage where we can take a patient, we can identify exactly what drugs they're going to respond to, we can identify exactly what disease they have, and we can treat them with the right drugs and not treat them with the wrong drugs. So our clients who come to us with diagnostics technologies, with drugs that have failed for unknown reasons, our clients can figure out why they failed and figure out which patients would actually respond to those drugs. So
That's
it's
great.
an ideal time to be in this particular area and be able to help patients, as many of our clients do. The real trick is obtaining patent protection for some of these innovations. So there was a change in the law a few years ago that made it very difficult to obtain patent protection for diagnostics therapies and technologies. And so many of our clients who are diagnostics companies are really struggling to maximize the value of their intellectual property in that particular area. And so that's one of the challenges that we help our clients overcome.
Clearly a very technical field you're in. How did you get into it? Did you just go to a law firm and I know some areas that I worked in earlier in my career, it's because my boss said, you don't have a choice, that's what you're working on. And so I sort of fell into certain categories. How did you get into it?
Yeah, in some ways it was luck. I'll tell you a little history. So after college, I went to my graduate studies at the University of Virginia, and I was making $15,000 a year. And my father said, well, how are you going to support a family? I said, don't worry, Dad, it'll be fine. And when I finished up the PhD, I started looking for alternative careers because I knew I didn't want to stay in academia. Patent law was actually the last career that I looked at. I actually thought I was going to go work at the Pentagon studying weapons of mass destruction. That was what I was slated to do for a year.
Wow.
I started looking at law firms, found the one in Boston, and was immediately enamored with it. It was academically similar to the experiences that I'd had. Professionally, it was a new, challenging area that I knew nothing about. But because it integrates science into a very legal, technical field, it was ideal for me.
You went from mass destruction to mass survival.
Exactly, exactly.
It's a little bit of a move.
You never know what you're going to do. I was studying the influenza virus, and so for me, virology and bacteriology were, it was part of my, currency in terms of fluency, and I just needed to find a way to utilize those skills and knowledge base.
Did you ever sit back and sort of think, wow, if I, thank God for that little move or I would have been, nothing wrong with it, but at the Pentagon my whole life living in a state of them against us or us against them, which is a real world, I understand that.
Yep.
But where you are now, do you ever sort of sit back and think about that?
It's a very interesting path that I took, but I do often talk to high school kids about career choices. And for me, it was actually ideal. I had no idea what I thought I was going to be an aerospace engineer, or a trash collector, take your pick. So for me, it was ideal. It was just the right opportunities came along at the right time with the right balance of interests.
So Todd, if someone were looking for you, how would they find you at Clark and Elbing?
Yeah, it's funny. A colleague of mine and I did a search on the internet, and we looked for patent attorneys in Boston and cell biology, and I popped up immediately. which was a
great.
surprise to both of us because we don't do a lot of marketing in our firm. A lot of our business comes in word of mouth. So the best way to find me is cell biology, patent attorney.
Great. Again, everybody, we've been speaking with Todd Armstrong, partner, Clark and Elbing. Now I know why Mark Z said to me this may be the best interview I've ever had. But I don't always remember interviews, so I don't have a lot of memory, institutional memory
This
on
one
that.
you will, though. Because Todd
And
really
that was
enjoyed
Mark
this.
Z. Thanks to Mark Z. And again, none of this would happen without Mark Furman, as we said earlier in the show, our sponsor from Tarlow, Hart and Rodgers. Thank you, TBHR. And we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.